Okay, and we are live.
Okay, this is Steve Dritz. I'm calling our meeting to order. Do we have any public comments on items not on the agenda?
We do not.
Okay, and we'll move on to our meeting minutes. I have any comments about the meeting minutes? Any updates, changes? If not, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Okay, B.
Motion second.
All in favor, raise your hand of approving. Opposed? Jim's opposed or slow?
Slow.
Just slow. I think.
Okay. So we have a special guest, Michael Darling, joining us, and we really appreciate you taking the time, Michael. I know you've talked before in the past. And with that, I will turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for having me. My name is Michael Darling. I'm the Street and Utilities Operation Administrator. I was hired by Dublin, I don't know, August of 2018. And we do have snow shift in here tonight, so I don't know if you can hear me or you can hear people out in the common area. I'm not sure. If that starts to get loud, just let me know. So I don't know what I'm gonna do about it right away, but I can try something. A little bit about myself is I grew up in Seneca County, Ohio. It's about 2 hours north of here, and in a little town called Attica. And then I graduated from Ohio State, earned a Bachelor of Science in Agriculture, and then went back home. I worked for the Seneca County Commissioners, writing grants and working in the Recycling Litter Prevention Office. And then after that, I moved to Columbus, and where I was hired by Rumpke as an outside sales staff member, and then was promoted to the Central Ohio Municipal Representative. So what that entailed was helping communities, townships in Fairfield, Pickaway, Licking, Franklin, Union, basically all of the surrounding Central Ohio communities, whether it's a township or a municipality of any kind, and schools, when they went out to bid to receive trash services. I was the one that helped them set that up. And then after that, I was hired by the city of Dublin as an operations administrator to kind of head up the environmental programs and initiatives that they have around here. So I'm back to doing more or less the same thing I was doing in Seneca County, which was a lot of grant writing and overseeing of environmental initiatives. And I'm doing that now here in Dublin. So I'd like to start by a little bit of a talk about, in 2019, we decided to write a community waste reduction grant funded by SWACO. And we wanted to set up a food waste drop-off station that wouldn't smell, that would keep away critters, that would allow us to really focus on something that we were able to easily target and keep out of the waste stream. The more items we keep out of the waste stream, the higher our diversion rate, and our current goal for diversion rate is somewhere around 50%. Over 50% is what we shoot for. So we try to identify and locate the most easy, readily available things to pull from that waste stream to have the highest impact we can have. And one of the things that we identified, the biggest thing that we identified, was food scraps. And what we want to do is turn food scraps into compostable materials. And basically what that is composting is just a fancy way of saying that it's an aerobic process that turns food scraps, and other things such as leaves, grass clippings, garden waste, agricultural residues into compost. The introduction of air allows fungi, and bacteria to basically break everything down and turn it into kind of a soil conditioner, something that's completely organic, something that helps the macropores in the soil profile, and that way it holds water better and is a little easier to work with. So that is basically what composting is. And the next slide here, let me catch up in my notes. What this shows is there's going to be a lot of math and statistics, so I will make a note to go slow. But what you see, the trash bag on the right is a comparison with what we are finding at the Franklin County Sanitary Landfill. And on the right, every year, U.S. landfills, everything okay?
No, excuse me, okay, now I see the screen. We weren't seeing your slides until at least.
Can you see them now?
Yeah, I can.
Okay, are they up like full screen like they're supposed to be?
Yeah, Michael, for whatever reason, yours went ahead and dropped the presentation, so I went ahead and I'm sharing it currently.
Oh, okay.
Which is totally fine.
Yep.
So we are on the first slide that says compost impacts more than you think.
Okay. Let me move this thing around a little bit. Okay. All right. The slide that you're on, are you currently seeing the slide that has the compost with the food scraps in them?
Which one?
The one with, there we go. I think we're on the same thing.
Okay. Right. So just let me know when you want to advance each slide and I'll make sure they advance.
Okay. So now you're seeing the one with the trash bag and the,
and
the Franklin County landfill. Okay. Now what this was supposed to do, or what this slide demonstrates, is a comparison between the rest of the United States, what they find, and what's going on in the Franklin County Sanitary Landfill. So every year, U.S. landfills and trash incinerators receive 160 million tons of garbage. And what that equivocates to is 457,534 tons of trash per day. And we usually think of landfills, especially the old ones, as environmental hazards, and it's a contributor to climate change, and it has a lot of health hazards to humans and animals. Landfills, working for Rumpke, I got to know their landfill really well as the Franklin County Sanitary Landfill. And the way things are done now, it's essentially a tomb for all the trash, and there's retention ponds and there's liners and things like that. So they are much more environmentally friendly. But as far as statistics go, 21% of generally what the United States throws away is food scraps. And how that compares in Franklin County, Franklin County receives over 1 million pounds of food scraps transported to landfill each day, and that's about 500 tons per day of food scraps ends up in the landfill. And food scraps by volume account for 15 to 18% of the landfill capacity. So that's something that's easily identified, and that's something that's valuable that we can pull from the waste stream, and we can turn it into something positive for the community. You know, they can put it in their gardens, and we can turn it into something that isn't harmful to the environment, I guess. Next slide. Next slide, Nick. Hello. There we go. All right. So this is pretty much just a horrible slide. I fought with this thing for a little bit and I just quit while I was behind on it. It's hard to read and kind of goofy looking. I was trying to be creative. But down in the lower right corner, organic food waste per yard. It's by most the heaviest item in the waste stream, and that's because it holds a lot of moisture, it holds a lot of weight, and essentially organic food waste per yard is 680 to 1,500 pounds. And what a yard of food waste is it's basically 8 trash bags. Equates to 1 yard of trash. And then your normal napkins, Kleenexes, egg cartons and other like styrofoam egg cartons and other things that you throw away. Eight trash bags of non-organic household waste is about 175 to 225 pounds. So if we're able to keep that organic waste out of the waste stream, we keep it out of the trash trucks. That means the trash trucks weigh less, doing less damage to the roads, and we also need fewer of them because they're only allowed to haul about 40,000 pounds before they have to go dump. So if we can remove that from the waste stream, we make better use of the trucks. Eventually, our trash bill will come down for the city. But in Dublin, we have about 14,180 households that are serviced. And in 2020, that they produced 11,969 tons of trash. That's what municipal solid waste stands for. Commingled recycling tons was just short of 5,000 tons. And then yard waste, like grass clippings and gardening things, bush trimmings, things like that, 3,000, about 3,500 tons. And when we crunch the numbers and do the math, we came up about 40.77% on our diversion rate, which is about 10 points shy. And I'll get into a little bit why that happened. It's definitely an eye opener, but a lot of it was contributed to COVID, and I'll explain a little bit about that here in a minute. If we were able to divert what was still available in the waste stream, which is about 5,500 tons of food waste, with the data we have, if we are able to remove that and put that into our diversion equation, we'd be at about 53.5%. And the reason that we're at 40% as opposed to closer to 50% was COVID had a lot to do with it. A lot of people were working from home and instead of at their place of business. So that means a lot of the trash that they produced would have normally produced either at their office or at their place of employment, restaurants, wherever everybody was eating at home. That significantly increased the amount of residential trash. And there's two types of trash. There's residential and there's commercial. So when everybody is home, there's very little commercial trash being produced, and yet all of that would have normally been produced, probably even a little more, was put into residential. So we saw that in some service pains this summer with Rumpke. They weren't prepared for that, and nobody really was. And I think we finally have it to the point where they're getting more consistent again. Because instead of maybe twice that they'd have to run to the landfill to dump per truck, they're going 3-4 times. And it takes about a half hour to 45 minutes to get there, half hour to 45 minutes back. And then on top of that, it's about 40 minutes to dump. So they're losing, anywhere an additional 4 hours, 3-4 hours a day just on the road running back and forth picking up trash as opposed to actually picking it up. So go ahead and next slide. Nick?
It'll go. Sorry, it's just
Okay.
lagging a little bit. And Michael, I'm having a hard time hearing you a little bit, but it's picking up really well. Like right now, when you're sort of leaned into the into your laptop mic a little bit. So just for your awareness, I'll let you know if you're drifting out again.
Okay, perfect.
But you sound good now.
Okay, it's good. So the city of Dublin's why. We identified the component of solid waste, which was food scraps, to get that out. There's other things that we identify as well and add to our diversion numbers. And these are some of them. I won't go through each and every one, but our household hazardous waste produces about 25 tons. We have shredding events, electronic waste. We make sure that we keep as much computers and flat screen TVs and things like that. If you have that, there's a place here at the service center where you can drop those off so that they do not go to landfill. In 2020, we were able to account for about 15 tons. And then we also have scrap metal recycling, which all of our street signs, light poles, and even our old stoplights end up back in a big roll-off, and we get credit for that as recycled because it gets recycled and turned into new things as opposed to disposed of in the landfill. Any beautification projects that happen with park, whether they take down trees or whatever clippings, shrub trimmings and things like that. We have 2 roll-offs that account for yard waste. All the yard waste is taken to Kurtz Brothers. And then we also have a chipper that goes out. Actually, we have 2 chippers that go out, and when people trim their own trees, or sometimes when they have a contractor trim their trees, we have a giant claw chipper that goes out and trims that material or chips it up into little shavings, and then those shavings go to Kurtz Brothers. So those do not go to landfill as well. And then our annual leaf collection, we about 1,000 tons of leaves are collected during the fall. So those help us when we add those to the numbers. We end up with about 45.51% diversion rate. And if we are able to capture the additional 5,526 tons, then we'd be sitting really pretty at 56.47% diversion rate. So I guess the takeaway from these past 2 slides, I know there's a lot of math and numbers and facts and figures, is we do a lot. We do as much as we can to divert as much as we can away from the landfill, and being able to remove food scraps is just yet another way that we've taken the initiative to try to eliminate what goes in the landfill and try to preserve the lifespan of that landfill as much as possible. Go ahead, Nick. All right, that one was fast. Okay, so what we did to identify and remove this was, I think I already mentioned, the SWACO Community Waste Reduction Grant. And what this is it's funding provided by the Franklin County Landfill, otherwise known as SWACO, to divert the maximum amount of material from landfill as possible. And that can be anything from capital improvements like compactors to styrofoam condensers to food waste drop-off stations. So I wrote this during the summer of 2019. The initial value was $9,012, and it established a food waste drop-off. It helped us create a corral. We were able to contract with a service provider, and we also were able to purchase 500 compost buckets from Go Zero, who is also the contractor. And our intent was to give those out to each of the first 500 people that were to register online. And the goal was pretty ambitious. We wanted to divert about 78,000 pounds during the first year. So August to August, basically, we wanted to divert about 38 tons. And in order to break it down a little further, we needed to accomplish 1,500 pounds per week in order to reach that goal. So 1,500 times 52 weeks, we would end up somewhere right around 78,000 pounds. And the math seemed to work. So we went ahead and went with it. The first step that we needed to do, next slide, please. Is we created a website. And if you go to City of Dublin, Ohio, USA.gov compost, you can click on that link and you can register. And what that does is it's available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can register anytime. And what we do is we send you timely updates. Anytime there's progress with the composting drop-off, or Rumpke has new services or new initiatives, like I just sent out a notice that Rumpke is now taking yogurt cups and cottage cheese containers, margarine tubs, any kind of the tubs, peanut butter jars, things like that. Rumpke can take that, whereas before they wouldn't. As well as you get updates regarding any of the new City of Dublin green initiatives. If there's anything going on, that goes out automatically. I do that once a month if possible, and make sure that the people that are registered with this program get the first information as soon as it's available. So that's kind of handy to have, and I would recommend that if you haven't registered yet, please do that. It's a good way to stay in the know. And again, our plan was to provide one free 5-gallon compost bucket to the first 500 registrants. Now we have almost 600. Well, we have over 650. I think it's 658 registrants right now, but we still have about 30 buckets left. So not everybody that registered picked up their bucket for one reason or another. And so they chose to use something from home, but I'm sure people are using it because we just keep expanding and growing. Go ahead and next slide. The next thing we did after we set up the website and we ordered the buckets and everything, we contracted with Go Zero, and they are a food scrap composter from the Dayton area. And they come and they switch out our containers each week with new sanitized, clean containers. They take them to Dayton, where there's a correctional facility, and they have the inmates go through and remove any contamination, as well as the labor of mixing air in with it and everything to turn it into usable compost. When we started, well, right now we have 12 65-gallon carts in the corral serviced every week. We were able to get 500 5-gallon buckets. I already covered that. The purpose of the buckets was they're a clean, easy way to store food scraps. And they have a lid where you can keep the lid on it. It minimizes odor. And you can bring it here, dump it in the green containers in the corral, and just dump everything in. And again, like I said, there's about 30 buckets remaining. Go ahead, next slide. One of the things that we discovered was the use of compostable bags. They're just like normal kitchen trash bags, except they should say BPI compostable on them. And when they have food scraps in them and things like that, eventually they will break down. So they're not your normal plastic bags. We don't want people using like Kroger bags or anything like that. An alternative would be paper bags that you would get maybe at Fresh Time or Whole Foods. You can use those, but they come in 6-gallon sizes, and that fits really nice down in the bucket, and then comes up over the top, and you can put the lid. And then when you're ready to dump, you just take the lid off, dump the liner and all right in the container. And sometimes you have to wipe out the inside of the bucket, but at least you don't have clumps of old food waste. People have reported that it's really helped with the smell. We know that it helps with the smell in the corral. It helps keep away the critters. It's also a bug deterrent, because they have to get through the liner in order to get into the material. So liners are a very good thing. They're available at Kroger, Whole Foods, Fresh Time, and they come in boxes of about 100, and the cost is about $25. So the cost is minimal, and it really supports keeping everything clean out in the corral, and it makes life really easy when you're using this process at home. You don't have to get your hands in everything and get dirty. So go ahead, next slide. All right, this is what it looks like here. The location is located at 6555 Shire Range Road, and that's what it looked like. Even though there was a lumber shortage, we were able to get enough fencing to build a very attractive cart corral. It's 20 feet by 8 feet long, and it has a 40-foot or a 40-inch. Like the front wall is 40 inches, and that is high enough to hide the containers, and yet low enough to where people that use this corral can see out as well as be seen in. We didn't want anything to where somebody would turn the corner and disappear. It actually makes it safer. And Go Zero has kind of adopted our design and prefers that other communities use that when they go to set up their composting station. And inside there, you can see the green carts. They are lidded. You just flip the lid up, dump your contents of your bucket or home container in it, put the lid down. Animals can't get in. The smell is generally not bad. When you flip the lid, there is a little bit of an odor during the summer. We have ways to control that as well. But it's a really clean, efficient system, and it's easily accessed by Go Zero. So, and safety was our main concern as well as ease of use. So that is what it looks like. Next one. Next slide. What we can and cannot take. I'll let you read through the acceptable items, but basically anything biodegradable we can take. We get a lot of questions about raw meat, cooked meat. That's fine. Coffee grounds, coffee filters, tea bags, and any kind of seafood or shellfish. All of that is fine. Any kind of compostable kitchen items like compostable liners, straws, bowls, tissues, napkins, the silverware that are compostable, like you use at Whole Foods. Any of that is fine. Eggs, eggshells, hair, dog hair, human hair, all that stuff can go right in there, as well as greasy pizza boxes. You just make sure that you cut them up or tear them up into small pieces because we want to conserve as much room inside the green carts as possible. Things that we don't want: rock, stone, glass, metal, grit, kitty litter, dog poop. Don't want that in there. Steel, tin. We have a place for electronics here at the service center. Styrofoam, keep that out. No personal healthcare products. Pharmaceuticals, anything that would break down and end up in a compost, we don't want that. And non-BPI certified plastic items or anything that has that paraffin wax coating, like some of the paper cups and things like that have the wax coating. That's hard to break down. But that's the difference between the acceptable and non-acceptable. And right now we're running a 9 or a 10 out of 10 as far as cleanliness of what has been produced, I guess, since August. So the worst we ever had was a 9, but a string of 10s, which means that we're sending them excellent material. There's hardly any contamination. So Dublin is doing a really good job. Go ahead, next. So what have we accomplished with all of this? The site was established on August 16th. Our original site was.
You're drifting out again.
Hello?
Yeah, there you go. That's much better.
Okay. The original site was created on August 16th, and we had it originally over at the Dublin Rec Center, and we decided to move it to the service center because of the proximity of houses. We didn't know if there's going to be smell. We didn't know if there's going to be animals. We didn't know a lot of things, so we figured we'd put it here and see how it worked. And we started with 6 65-gallon Go Zero carts, and we had them on an every other week service schedule. Go ahead, next slide. By the time we finished 2020, we had 639 active registrants. That means 639 people had actually registered to participate in the service. We had collected 29,584 pounds of residential food waste, and that's in 4 months. So that's really good. So that'd be half of August, September, October, November, December, 4.5 months. And what that broke down to was 1,740 pounds of food waste was collected each week, and our initial goal was 1,500 pounds per week. So we were a good 240 pounds over what we had estimated. And we had increased from 6 containers every other week to 12 containers serviced weekly, and we can continue to expand as the demand increases. and what that does for the environment. And these are Go Zero's figures. I kind of roughly know how they came up with the math, but it's the equivalent impact of taking a car off the road for 1,000. And basically, a trash truck is equivalent to about 12 cars. So when you go, and I can send you the math if you really want to know, but we've taken enough of those trucks off the road that, you know, it equates to about one car off the road for 1,300 days. And the City of Dublin Food Scrap Composting Platform is being utilized as a model for rolling out new programs throughout Ohio. So the Hamilton County Solid Waste District and the Miami County Solid Waste District are using our formula and our format and our the specs for our corral, how we did it, everything to as kind of a model to roll things out, because our residents have embraced it. We've had incredible results compared to surrounding communities. So we really have something to be proud of here. And as long as the residents buy in, it'll continue to be a great thing, and it'll pay huge dividends later. Go ahead, next slide. It's starting to take a while to try to wrap this up. Where we're at in 2021 is, in the past month and a half, we've added another 19 or 20 active registrants. So we're 658 right now. Our tonnages have increased to 1,971 pounds of food waste collected per week. So now we're at 471 pounds ahead of per week where we needed to be, or where we were projected. And in 2021, from January 21st until February 2nd, actually, we did not get the readings for today yet, but we're at 9,856 pounds collected so far, which is way up. So the total would be 39,440 pounds, and that's the equivalent of removing one car for 1,793 days. And we are currently setting at 50.5% of the goal at week number 25. So we're just over halfway to our goal, and we're just about halfway in time. So we are on target to reach our 78,000 pounds that we told Swaco that we would need. So that feels really good. Next. All right. Some upcoming things that we have to look forward to this fall is pumpkins. They were something I did not see coming. They caused a little bit of a problem this fall. I wasn't anticipating them. People were bringing in pumpkins and putting whole pumpkins inside the carts, which means you have a lot less room for everything else. So we did run into one instance where we had composting sitting on the pavement for about 12 hours. And it just so happened that it happened in the middle, like Saturday evening. But by Sunday, it was all gone, because Sunday is the day for Go Zero. So they let us know about it. They let us know what they found, and then we kind of adjusted accordingly. Pumpkins are great for composting. Go Zero really likes them because of their high water content. And one of the problems they have with composting food waste is it tends to be very dry, which slows the process. They constantly have to add water. So when they're able to add pumpkins, it helps things go a lot better. And then in doing the research for pumpkins and composting, I found out that the Columbus Zoo will also take pumpkins for feedstock for giraffes and the different animals that they have. So we may do something with them this fall as well. So the more pumpkins we get, the merrier. That they'll be very welcome. As far as the exact dates when the container will be here, and if we have a drive, details, I'll let you know the details as we get closer to this fall. And you'll want to actually go 2 slides now. Yeah, move one more. Okay. What we plan to do, and kind of where we're at right now, is, I think you have the old one, the old slide, but that's okay. Possible expansion to another location within Dublin to provide an opportunity closer to the north end of town. We had considered the Dublin community parking lot, the rec center parking lot, but again, there's houses nearby. I did change the information on the slide, but what you're looking at is the former copy. It's not the copy that I replaced it with. I think there's opportunities also for historic Dublin and the Bridge Street population concentration. There's a bunch of apartments and things at Bridge Street that would probably benefit from a future location as well. But of course, we're about 6 months in, so we don't want to start promising locations because we don't want to get ourselves in trouble. But the current location that we have is within about 100 feet of our front door. So if we're not experiencing any animals or smells that close, I can't imagine that we would run into issues anywhere else around town. But we know that the service center is a little bit out of the way and we're still getting huge participation. So if we were able to find a place, closer to the middle of town or a little bit easier access, put a camera on it for safety, I think it'd be an absolute gold mine, and we'd get a lot of those 5,500 tons of material out of the waste stream, which will bring our community's trash bill down and open up different service options. And really, it'll be a great thing when we're able to do that. Go ahead and back up one, Nick. Okay, what we've experienced as far as food waste issues through the 25 weeks that we've had this program up and running. You see the little raccoon sitting there. Oh yes, it's garbage night. We've actually had none of that. People, we do realize that raccoons and possums and skunks and things can knock over a light trash can. The trash cans that we have, when they're full, weigh about 500 to 600 pounds. So there isn't any animal knocking that over. And when the lids come down, when they sit on the lid, they have to pull against their own weight. So they can't. We haven't had any animals getting into the trash cans. Groundhogs, nothing. We've had 0 rats. We haven't noticed anything, and we have surveillance on that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. The smells, sometimes you can smell it, but it's about 50 feet away from the corral. And when things start to smell, we just, what we do is we go out with a vinegar mixture and spray, and that kind of actually oddly eliminates some of the odors as well as the insects. And most of the insects that we've seen have been inside the containers. You get some flies around the outside when it's really hot, but for the most part, we haven't had near the bug problems that we thought we'd have. And we've also had 0 reports of illegal dumping. Nobody's dropped chairs, mattresses, or couches, or just throwing their trash in there. We've had none of that. So all in all, it's been really great, and we've had almost 0 contamination rate. So 10 is the best score you can get. We've had a slew of 10s, and we've had a couple 9s, which means very little contamination. Okay, we'll go 2 slides forward now, Nick. One more. All right. These are Upper Arlington and Westerville and Worthington. What back one? Upper Arlington, Westerville, and Worthington were really the first ones to do this. So we watched kind of what they did, and they've upgraded here and there. But you can kind of see what they have, and they've opened additional locations, but they don't have the 12 containers going weekly. Dublin is really kind of run circles around them as far as volume and the embracing of the program by the community and participation, and just really Dublin's taken ownership of it, and it's something for our residents to be really proud of. So go ahead, next slide. Almost done. For more information, if you would like to register, or you know someone that would like to register, just go to the website, dublinohiousa.gov. /compost. It'll bring up the form. You enter your name, your address, and what that does is that makes you eligible to receive one of the, we have 30 left of the 5-gallon composting containers with a lid. It'll come with one already installed compostable liner, and then there will be a kind of an information sheet that looks a lot like this also inside there, so you can take that and have a hard copy of what to put in there, what not to put in there, collection days, and all of the information that you would. So if you have not done that, please do that. Plus, you're in the know for any green initiatives that come up or any Rumpke changes and updates as far as the progress of the grant. SWACO is also a big proponent of this, and they have a lot of good composting information, recycling information, and that's swaco.org. And then a little bit more information about Go Zero, you can visit them at gozero.org. They have a lot of different things that they're developing, like pumpkin tosses and where to buy the compost that is taken there, or where to buy the compost that's made from the food scraps that are taken there. So check them out at gozero.org. Next slide. And we get a lot of questions about, well, this stuff comes from Dublin. Where can I get, compost made from Dublin food scraps? And, are we able to get it? Are we able to buy it? And if you go to the Go Zero website, that's supposed to be 42 Farm with the number 2. But you can go on there and there will be a link, and basically they'll send you, a certain size bag. I'm assuming you can order a 1 pound bag or a 5 pound bag or as much as you want. But they'll actually send it to you. I don't have the pricing, but the compost they have, because it has such a high nitrogen content, it's 2 times more potent than normal compost, and then 3 times more potent of the normal potting soil. So you just want to add it as a soil conditioner to your garden or to your house plants. It doesn't. A lot of times when you put oak leaves and cardboard and other things that, yard waste and things like that, that kind of diminishes the nitrogen content. Well, the food scraps, there's none of that. It doesn't get diluted. So it has a very high nitrogen content. So just keep that in mind if you do choose to buy some of the 42 Farm items. And with that, I think what that does is that wraps us up and allows us to ask any questions if you should have them. And I'll do my best to answer. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, Mike.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I had computer problems early. You may cover this. Is Dublin paying for this service, or are we getting paid for providing the compost or the material?
Okay, how this works is the service is paid for initially by a community solid waste reduction grant, and we received about $9,000 to pay Go Zero for their service, to buy buckets, to do all of the things. There was a match in there. It was like $1,600 or something like that, and that was to pay for the first year. And the initial program is a pilot program. If it was successful, we would add it to our budget. It would cost about $10,000 a year after the grant runs out. The grant is to get it started, see if it works. That way we don't have that much skin in the game. But with, almost 660 residents utilizing the service, we'll more than likely keep it going unless the residents don't want it for whatever reason. But there's a lot of people that use it. It's something that will pay dividends later as we remove that item from the waste stream. We should see the community trash bill come down if all things work out. I know this next trash cycle, the next bid cycle, we have COVID that they're taking into account. So there's additional costs for the hauler for that. We expect fuel prices to rise, so they're going to account for that. And eventually we want to put a kind of a cart contents only. That would be my dream scenario, is to put a cart contents only system in place. And what that does is it allows us to use different equipment It would allow us to have better, more consistent service. You know, we know that people call us at 8 a.m. Hey, they haven't been here yet. And, you know, maybe the trash truck won't get there till 3 or 4. So it's counted as a miss. And by the time we go back out, well, then the truck's been there. And it's a lot of moving parts. We eliminate factors if we're able to change the trash collection system. And we believe the community would be a lot happier because, you know, the truck would be within 10 minutes, a 10-minute time frame each week. If it's normally there at 8 o'clock every Wednesday, it might be there at 7:50, but no later than 8:10 because they don't have, you know, like move outs where people set everything at the curb. You know, when the truck has to stop and deal with that once, twice, maybe 3 times before they get to your normal stop on the route, maybe they've had to break off and go dump. And so you're assuming that you've been missed. If we can eliminate that and have a separate truck that would go deal with those large stops, the residents would have timely service. We could hypothetically even start earlier because we'd be running CNG trucks, which is compressed natural gas. Those things are silent, and you wouldn't have the tippers banging the containers. They just grab the trash container like this, dump it, set it right back down with the lid closed, right where you got it. It won't end up in the ditch. We don't have people throwing them in the middle of the driveway. We don't, like all of the things that we hear. It's a mechanical system that does this, sets it right back down, and unless the wind gets a hold of it or something, you know, it'll make our receptionist lives so much better. So I know I went off on a tangent on that, but the long and the short, as far as the cost, what it costs us to implement this program, it will save us probably 3 times that amount. Or, you know, once we do the cost analysis, it'll save us much more in the future than what we would ever spend on this. Anybody else?
This is Jim. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Congratulations on this project. It must be fun to see where it's going from where it started.
Yeah, it really is. It's been fun. You know, it started off a little rocky when we had everything ready to go and then immediately moved it to the service center. But, you know, it's just been a lot of happy accidents. You know, we weren't anticipating the corral that we built, you know, to be noticed by the contractor. And then they're like, wow, you can see people in there and they don't go back there and hide. Or, you know, if we have a rough area where, you know, maybe in Dayton or somewhere else where we put this in, people can see the people in there and people can see if there's a threat and, you know, it's safe, it blocks the wind, there's no animals. And, you know, we didn't know what we were getting into. So yeah, it's just, you know, it's really been a lot of, you know, our work has paid off. You know, the problems that we thought we'd have, we haven't had. You know, other communities are reaching out and asking, you know, what we did, how we implemented it, how we engaged the community. And I kind of gave them our playbook, and, you know, it seems to be doing well elsewhere. So yeah, really, really happy with it. Thank you.
I had a question also. Has there been any consideration of actually, you know, rather than having people have to go to the location and drop off material, you know, the idea that people would just receive a type of bucket that you could have at home and use and just for your own garden to kind of eliminate the extra steps and just pass those out to everybody, basically, way of saving?
That's a really good idea. And I will actually write that down. It's not that we couldn't do that. There's also right now it's called subscription service. There's a couple composting companies in town that will, you know, for a monthly fee, and I don't know what it is. It seems like it's $15, maybe it's more. Don't quote me exactly. But they'll give you a bucket, and then they will once a week or maybe every other week, they'll have a designated location on your block where they'll come pick it up, exchange the containers. So there is that service available, but you kind of have to sniff that out on your own, because there's multiple vendors for that. I think there's 3 to 5 vendors for that. We can't name names because we pick somebody out. I forget to mention somebody, and then that's a disadvantage. But there is a subscription service available if you should so choose to use it. This is a free service for the community, that seems to be embraced. If we would go subscription, or if we would use funds to, go on to contract per se, that's something that is always in the back of my mind. But right now this works, and we'll just kind of see how it evolves and how it goes. But I do like the idea of, maybe purchasing the containers and, for home use or something like that. And there are a lot of people that I did hear some people that grab the 5-gallon bucket and they're using it in their, at their acreage at home. There's some lots, that are an acre or 2 acres or 3 acres, and they have expansive gardens and they have a little pile in the back. And that's fine. That's fine. We just don't want to go into landfill. So I don't really worry about, how things are being used or how the containers being used, as long as we're keeping that out of the landfill. That's the end game for what we're up to.
Great, thanks.
Anyone else?
I have another one. Wasn't a very high priority, but I was just curious. Several years ago, I went to a MORPC presentation, and Bexley was talking about, I think they're one of the first communities doing composting. Are they part of this program, or are they still like a one-off doing their own thing?
I was kind of involved with that with Runkey, my Runkey days. I don't know where it stands right now, but I know that they started as a pilot program, with a vendor, kind of a curbside program. I know there's been some hiccups every now and then, because when you do it commercially, like the vendor does, you have fuel costs, you have equipment costs, you have to run a composting facility that requires licenses and things like that. And the guy that was involved in setting that up, it was his company. He was kind of a pioneer, and when you're a pioneer, sometimes there's things that nobody sees, and then you have setbacks and roaches forward and things like that. Now, to my knowledge, it's still going. It stopped a couple times, but then it restarted. But I don't think it's community wide, and I think it's part of the initial program where they have, like one person on that block will volunteer to be the drop-off point. So everybody will bring their buckets, set it at their house, like on the sidewalk or on the curb or whatever, and that truck will go by, collect it, dump it out. I don't know if they get fresh buckets or they just get their bucket back. But then the residents come back to that household, pick it up once it's been emptied, and then they do the whole thing over again, and then they are individually filled. But to my knowledge, it's not subsidized by Bexley, and we don't have anything that's subsidized. If it was $15 a month, I think that is paid for by the household. I'm not sure if it's $7 for the resident, because the city picks up $8, unless they were to go citywide. That's how that would work. But we've got a ways to go before we can do anything responsibly here. We want to know everything before we commit to something like that.
Okay, thank you.
I can follow up with Bexley and ask them, how their program's progressing, or how they feel things have gone. I want to say, when they launched the program, to Michael's point, I think what they did is they required, I don't know if they did it per census block or neighborhood or something, but they had to get a petition signed by 75% plus of the households in that neighborhood in order for it to be sort of as like an opt-in part of the program or something like. I thought it was something like that. So I'll shoot them an email and see if they'd be willing to share, some information, or if they have like a pamphlet or something that shares the most recent data on their program or something like that. So.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyone else have any questions on this topic? Okay.
This is Dee. I don't have a question. I just want to give you a big thumbs up because I think this is a great program. I get excited when I drop off my compost and I'm in line, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. Thank you so much. I mean, it really is a pleasure, and the community has made it really easy. Because I know other communities have fought it here and there, just little perceptions and things, but Dublin has been great about owning this thing and making sure it succeeds, and they've really done a great job. So yeah, I just get the light, but it's really the community that's made it easy. So very, very much appreciated. Hopefully all my little projects go that well. But I know better. So. But any other questions? I'm happy to, if you want copies of the presentation, I can make sure you get those. I'm also available to answer any other questions if you call the number here. But I know it was a lot of facts and figures, and it went way longer than anticipated. So I appreciate your patience and everything, and hopefully we all learned something tonight. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Okay, and with that, I'll probably duck out if you don't mind. All right. Okay. Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. Let's bring up the agenda again. So, how about Nick? I'll just turn over to you if there's talk about our future meetings and what's happening.
Yeah, happy to do that. And I know there was the other item on the agenda was in regards to the solid waste recycling contract. I just wanted to speak to it just because it was on the agenda.
Yeah, right.
But I know maybe some of you had an opportunity to look over the memo that Michael was a part of advancing to council in collaboration with some other staff members. But as you could see there, it's pretty much just sort of status quo. There aren't a lot of changes to the contract right now. But I did want to let you all know that Michael really values your all's feedback, and he actually shared with me he has some things that he'd love to maybe explore doing in future contracts, even though they just haven't quite had the opportunity to do them here since you all took on the topic a couple of years ago. And so I can't remember specifically what it was that he was interested in maybe exploring with you all, but it might be a potential project for him to maybe come to this commission here maybe in a few months once they start working through some of those items. So I just wanted you all to know, I know it's something that we've all sort of been curious about a little bit, but nothing has significantly changed with that contract moving forward. But there still is I think there were a lot of optimism within the last time you all took on the topic. I know none of those things have necessarily come to fruition at this point, but it's definitely something that staff is still looking at, potentially exploring down the road with some of the different options that were discussed at that meeting. So I will keep you all obviously apprised and in the loop of anything that advances with that, but I'll continue to encourage Michael to maybe bring anything forward that he's interested in getting some feedback on. And then in regards to future meetings, we don't have any, you all still have not been delegated any projects at this point. What I think would be appropriate, I've really been pushing and asking for something to be delegated. I know that we've had some different speakers come and talk to you all on different topics of interest, but at the end of the day, you all, are more than just sort of a sounding board for areas of interest. I'm sure hopefully you all have loved hearing from our different staff members talk about these great topics, but you know, you all are a valuable resource here to serve on different projects and help staff get feedback and help council get feedback. So I think what would be appropriate is, you know, regardless of whether or not you all have a project that's delegated to you between now and your March meeting, I will work on crafting a memo to advance to City Council. And we can, if nothing else, at your next meeting, we can review that memo and finalize it. And I'll make sure that it gets advanced to City Council, letting them know, you know, here's what you all have, you know, the different folks that you have heard from in the last few months with emergency management, Connected Dublin, and the compost program, among other things. Maybe just remind them of some of the projects that you all have worked on over the last few years, and then indicate in there the different topics of interest and areas that you all have brought up that's reflected in the calendar that the running calendar that we have, and sort of request that they spend some time taking under consideration some different project opportunities that they could delegate to you all. So I think at the very least, you know, as we had discussed at previous meetings, I think it's appropriate at this point to advance a memo to council to let them know that you are, you know, you've been without a specific project to work on for the last few months, and you know, you're open to taking on some different things if they're willing to delegate it to you. So so that's my plan. I'd love to hear from you all if you think that sounds
okay. Add something?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, it looks like my screen froze there.
We can hear you though, Steve.
Okay. I know a lot of us, I'm not sure if everyone talked to the mayor and vice mayor, you know, and I think I was the first one to talk, but I presented the fact that, you know, it's been, I don't have my notes in front of me, unfortunately, but I had the dates when we were assigned our last project by City Council. It was like in 2019, I believe. You know, we worked on it and COVID came and we did funding of the stormwater, and that's basically been it. So talking with Chris and Kathy, you know, we kind of brainstormed some ideas. I was just curious if anyone else on the our commission talked to them, and if you had anything you'd like to share with this group and what came out of your meetings.
Yeah, actually, I was about to bring a few notes, so probably a good thing you brought it up. You know, I had an opportunity. It's really nice. Probably I should, you know, thank them as a commission, you know, to, you know, like make sure we had an opportunity to talk to them one-on-one. Yeah, I almost, you know, like when they were talking about it, you know, I had a similar discussion. That's what we were working on this time, stormwater and everything. I think the Kathy, the vice mayor, she promised that, you know, we have a lot of work, you know, on the way, and especially the work that we were doing on the North Bridge Park, and there is so much of work related to that. I think she said she's going to assign to us. So that's the one thing probably, at least I hear from her directly. So I told them, okay, you're not doing any kind of project at this time. So she specifically mentioned that she's going to push a lot of work to us in the future.
Anyone else like to share anything that they talked about?
Well, they were finishing up their projections for the coming year and the plans for the coming year, and I asked them if they would be willing to share that with us, and they said, yeah, you know, that would give us some idea of things that they were looking to do. I said, I think it just so much of what we.
Can you speak up?
So much of what we've been experiencing is just, you know, we can't get together, right? And some of it is that and then some of it's having, you know, we're all getting a little itchy to do something. So they were both very nice about it, and they said they would share with us the summaries of the things that they're looking to do this year. So I think we'll have something to do.
Okay.
I know when I talked to them, they joked that had you and I, Steve, talk to each other before we went and talked to them. I said, no. They said, well, you sounded exactly like what Steve said. And I said, well, we were the new kids for a while, so we were pretty excited to get something to do. And I will say they were very receptive. And Kathy did promise that there's quite a bit of work coming down from council, and they do recognize the value of this commission in what they see as kind of our global quality to bringing them information and going off and doing the good work. So I had a good feeling that we were going to get a lot more work, which is either great or oh my gosh.
Right. Well, great. Thank you. I mean, yeah, that's pretty much my message. You know, bring it on. You know, we all volunteered. I mean, it wasn't like we were drafted to do this. So
I mean, from my standpoint, I mean that's.
What? Hey, Nick, you're hard to hear.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now? Look, I'm not gonna hate on WebEx, but I really don't like WebEx. So, but Michael and I did a flawless run through of his presentation earlier today, and I felt so bad when he was having so many hiccups. But I appreciate you all standing through with him. But I think to your all's point, it's great to hear that you all had such positive conversations. Council does value your all's input, and you all have done some really great projects for them in the last few years. And I think what you have is just a lot of new council members, and they have all their council committees now. And I don't think they quite realize how many things they've put on their own plate. And so it's just taking a little bit for it to funnel down and for them to realize that they need to delegate some of their things to you all. So it should be coming. But for the time being, it won't be difficult for me to put together a memo. So if nothing else, if we do, like I said, get to our March date, you still haven't been delegated a project specifically, I'll be prepared with a memo for us to sort of finalize, and we'll advance that to council and just give them a nice little nudge to say, hey, just a reminder, you talked to all these folks, within the last month or two and promised them some projects, and it's time to deliver on that. So, with all that being said, I think at the latest we can expect a project by April, but I'm hopeful that that'll come to fruition earlier rather than later. But with that being said, I don't have anything more for you all today. But please feel free.
Hey, Nick.
Yes, Jim.
And I just want to follow up because similar to what I think Vivek said, specifically the Parks and Recreation 2035 plan is what Kathy referenced. That maybe is what she referenced because she said other council or other members had also referenced that area of focus. And so that's specifically, as you put your note together, she was talking about Parks and Recreation 2035.
Yeah, for a little context too, the 2035 sort of framework plan is this sort of, it's a future strategic plan that's looking out obviously beyond the next 5 or 10 years. Obviously it's 15. But it's encapsulating a lot of different, master plans and strategic plans underneath it. And so to your point, Jim, the Parks and Rec master plan is a perfect example. And I know I've brought it up a couple of times because I was sort of expecting some of that to get maybe delegated to you all. But that's something that is being worked on right now that falls underneath that may very well be delegated to you all as a project.
Okay. Anybody have any other items of interest?
I was about to check on, our COVID numbers going down. Is there any possible that, did you guys everybody get vaccinated yet? So when are we going to meet in person?
Yeah, good question.
If any of you all have an appointment and you want to advocate for CSAC members and their staff liaison to the vaccination, I'm certainly supportive of that initiative.
Essential.
Right.
But Vivek, to your point,
I imagine we'll follow council's lead, right? When they start meeting in person, and we could consider it.
Say that again, Steve.
I would think once council decides to meet in person, I guess, then we could follow suit.
Yeah, I mean, personally, and we can discuss this both, in future meetings and offline. If you want to reach out to me at any time, you certainly can. But I would not look to meet at any point until, at minimum, council is meeting in person. But I'd probably want to speak to each of you individually too, to make sure that you're still comfortable meeting in person, just as I did previously before we started meeting virtually. I know it's not ideal, and you know, we all miss seeing each other in person, and it's much easier to do. But I'll certainly keep you all apprised if I see some movement and I hear some rumblings that council may be meeting in person and we might have an opportunity to do that. I will certainly be proactive in trying to make that happen if the opportunity looks like it's available for us.
Okay. Anyone else? I would like to apologize. I had the agenda in front of me and I just let slip relative to the solid waste and recycling with Michael. Well, no, I mean, I don't have much. I mean, one of my responsibilities is keeping to agenda, and I skipped a whole item. So it must be the Florida lifestyle.
Steve, it really fit with the theme of the rest of our, you know, on the staff end of, you know, technical difficulties. So we appreciated you sort of, you know, making us feel better about the
because when I'm at home, I have two monitors. Today, I have just my laptop, so that's my excuse. So I'm looking at my phone.
We're an understanding group, so
okay,
we get it.
I will do better next time. So with that, our next meeting is scheduled for March 9th. We'll plan to meet unless we hear something from Nick on why we would not meet. And with that, if no one has anything new, I will adjourn our meeting. So thank you very much, everyone. Stay healthy.
Thank you, Steve.
See you next month.
Have a nice evening, everyone.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.